Ilhan Omar positioned herself within the chambers of the United States Congress, thrust her index finger toward the commander-in-chief, and shouted the term killer on live broadcast before an audience of 300 million U.S. citizens. A fortnight afterward, Donald Trump challenged her to repeat that remark directly to his face. Zero teleprompters, zero personnel, zero chance to retreat. She consented. She assumed she was entering the greatest struggle of her political career. Yet, as the night concluded, her microphone remained active, though Ilhan Omar possessed absolutely nothing further to speak into it. This is the manner in which the event unfolded. Prime time, a pair of seats, a single moderator, and zero ad breaks. Trump had published the gauntlet on Truth Social at 6 a.m., utilizing capital letters, demanding no remorse, and Omar consented within 60 minutes. She did not gradually enter the discussion. "Let me be explicit regarding my presence," Omar stated, her vocal tone instantly reaching the exact frequency it possessed within Congress, boisterous, targeted, and focused like a weaponized digit. "I am present because I labeled this individual a killer a fortnight prior. I genuinely meant it, and I shall state it once more directly to his face presently. Killer." She directed her aim across the platform toward Trump. Deceased. Deceased. Because this individual dispatched federal operatives into U.S. municipalities resembling an invading force. Deceased because he handles households resembling my own as marks rather than human beings. Omar dragged the microphone nearer. He positioned himself within Congress and accused my demographic, the Somali populace in Minnesota, for transgressions they never enacted. He labeled them buccaneers, labeled them robbers, claimed they pillaged the territory, and when I stood tall and labeled him what he truly is, a deceiver and a killer, the entire nation feigned astonishment. I remain unsurprised. I possess a decade of experience observing this individual deceive. The singular distinction lies in the fact that I ultimately stated it to his face. Omar was far from finished. This individual attended a gathering and labeled me refuse. An active congressional representative, he instructed a mob to return me to Somalia. And he stood present, listening to their chants, taking no action to halt them. He delighted in it. He labeled my populace buccaneers, labeled Somali-Americans robbers within the congressional chamber during a State of the Union address intended to focus on solidarity. She directed her aim at Trump once more. Consequently, affirmative. I labeled him a killer. I labeled him a deceiver. And I shall label him both once more presently, positioned merely 3 feet away. Since the lone entity more perilous than such a man is a nation that remains silent regarding his actions. She reclined, arms crossed, finished, and the allegation merely lingered in the center of that broadcast room. Killer, deceiver, prejudiced individual, all of it piled high, resembling a barricade she had constructed using her bare palms, challenging anyone to scale it. Here lies the element you must comprehend. Omar had executed this previously. She had confronted individuals on broadcast, harsh, swift, lacking remorse, and the strategy had continuously functioned identically. She hurls the massive term. The opposing faction rushes to guard themselves. The media cycle broadcasts the footage, and Omar claims the morning. She anticipated Trump would erupt. Everyone anticipated Trump would erupt the individual who retorted to Hillary Clinton prior to her concluding a sentence with, "Because you'd be in jail." That individual was anticipated to lose his composure and provide her precisely the footage she sought. He refrained. Trump remained in his seat, a single palm resting upon the armrest, his visage displaying absolutely zero. Zero wrath, zero grin, zero interruption, purely zero. The broadcast devices could capture 4 moments of quiet. 5, 6. The host adjusted his posture. The media section ceased their typing, and Omar, for merely a fraction of a moment, glanced at Trump in the manner a pugilist observes when a strike connects perfectly, yet the opponent remains motionless. If you witnessed her yell killer at the U.S. Commander-in-Chief within Congress, and a feeling in your stomach indicated this female had just breached a boundary no one ought to breach. Strike the approval icon presently, because subsequent events represent the core reason you arrived. 7 moments. Trump allowed the quietness to persist for 7 complete moments. Next, he elevated a single digit, lacking aggression, yet sufficient. And the host who prepared to interject sealed his lips. "Have you concluded?" Trump inquired, his vocal tone resting deep. Placid, not executive placid, Queen's placid. The vocal tone of an individual who has positioned himself opposite worse adversaries and feels zero rush, good. That proved genuinely remarkable. Genuinely remarkable. He permitted the term something to linger. And if you comprehended the historical context, if you comprehended what Omar had formerly labeled the 11th of September, you perceived it drop like a masonry block. I shall not roar at you, Representative. I am aware that is the objective you sought. You arrived seeking the footage. Everyone comprehends this, and I am refusing to provide it to you. Trump adjusted his posture within his seat. Conversely, I shall pose a singular query to you, a minor one, uncomplicated, prior to addressing the significant matters. Currently seated in the tertiary row of this broadcast room, a female was positioned with her palms crossed upon her lap. Her title was Margaret Dwire, a 68-year-old resident of Staten Island. She had traveled via a transport that departed prior to dawn, donning a simple dark blue garment alongside a marital band upon her right palm. Relocated there from her left, 25 years prior on the dawn, she was informed Thomas Dwyer of Engine 54, Ladder 4, Battalion 9 would not return to their residence from the northern structure. Margaret had not arrived for governmental affairs. She had arrived due to 6 terms. Some individuals enacted a deed, and the female who uttered those terms was positioned 30 feet away from that lady presently. Retain her in your memory, for she shall hold significance prior to this evening concluding. Trump gazed at Omar. During 2012, prior to your congressional tenure, you published on digital networks the following exact phrasing: Israel has mesmerized the globe. May the Almighty rouse the populace and aid them in perceiving the wicked actions of Israel. Your phrasing remains visible. Anyone can verify it. He halted. Subsequently, during 2019, an individual questioned your reasoning regarding congressional backing for Israel, and you stated, using your distinct phrasing, it's entirely concerning the Benjamins, infant. The Benjamins signify currency, indicating your belief regarding pro-Israel backing. Trump gazed at her in the manner a builder evaluates a fracture within a barricade. Now, I refrained from labeling you prejudiced against Jewish people. Representative, I lacked the necessity to do so. You are aware of who did. Nancy Pelosi, your personal leader. She issued a declaration criticizing you directly by title. Your personal superiors forced you to express remorse on broadcast. The U.S. House of Representatives enacted a mandate, HRES 241, criticizing prejudiced remarks specifically. Your remarks? Trump reclined. Allow me to guarantee the individuals residing at home comprehend the situation we are addressing currently. A female whose personal faction, excluding the Republicans, her personal faction, was required to enact a mandate within the U.S. House of Representatives due to the statements she directed at the Jewish populace. Her personal leader identified her publicly by title. Her personal superiors forced her to position herself before broadcast lenses and express remorse. Trump extended his palms outward. And that specific female is positioned here this evening, 3 feet distant from myself, labeling me malicious, labeling me prejudiced, labeling me a killer. He rotated his skull while displaying a partial grin, the characteristic Trump grin, the expression signifying, I struggle to accept I possess the obligation to elaborate upon this. One cannot invent this scenario. Truthfully, if I propose this concept to filmmakers, they would deem it excessively fictional. They would declare no one would accept it. Yet we are present here. If you possess experience observing an individual reprimand the entire nation regarding malice, solely to uncover their actual statements when they assumed 0 vital individuals were listening, remain stationed here. As the commander-in-chief has yet to address the truly difficult subjects, Omar retaliated swiftly. One must award her commendation. She refrained from freezing. Allow me to educate you regarding my identity, Omar stated. I expended 4 years within an asylum sanctuary. I immigrated to this nation at age 12 possessing 0 English fluency. And every individual assault this individual hurls toward me shares an identical foundation. I function as a black Muslim female occupying a space where individuals resembling him assume solely individuals resembling him are meant to exist. She directed her gaze at the broadcast lens. The prejudice accusation, the allegiance accusation, the threat advocating my removal. He positions himself and observes, it represents an identical tactic consistently. Identify the female lacking the correct appearance and designate her the adversary. And the barricade was raised, the massive one, the barricade that had halted a multitude of assaults across numerous media periods. The allegation proved so immense that a majority of individuals retreated from it rather than evaluating its durability. It endured for roughly 15 moments. If you possess experience observing an individual deploy the casualty tactic with such velocity, it caused your skull to rotate, subsequently waiting for any individual to ultimately identify it accurately. Refrain from departing. The individual who shattered that barricade was the final individual Ilhan Omar anticipated. The arrangement permitted public vocalization spanning 3 minutes utilizing one microphone. And when the stage coordinator directed his attention to a male occupying the 5th row, the individual who elevated himself was neither a Republican, nor a Fox media analyst, nor a male donning a crimson cap. His title was Abdi Hassan, a 55-year-old Somali-American who migrated to the U.S. during the identical era Omar accomplished the same feat. Identical sanctuaries, identical procedures, identical periods of anticipation. He operated a provisions market upon Cedar Avenue within Minneapolis, managing it for 19 years. He conversed utilizing an inflection indicating every English term required significant effort. "I desire the representative to absorb this directly from myself," Hassan declared, "since she shall remain ignorant of it via her personnel." He directed his gaze toward Omar. "I identify as Somali. I identify as American. I embody both, and spanning 19 years, I have unsealed my market at 4 during the dawn. I have funded every levy. I have never requested a single item from this state that I neglected to achieve through labor." His vocal tone remained entirely stable. The vocal tone of a male who has maintained vocal stability his entire existence. Subsequently, the deception arrived. The Sustenance Initiative, $1 billion extracted by individuals within our populace, utilizing our title, from the nation that provided us with everything. He halted. "You uttered 0. Representative, you enacted 0. You refrained from positioning yourself before our populace and stating, 'This action is incorrect. We possess greater virtue than this.' You appeared on broadcast media and claimed we were experiencing victimization. You collected our disgrace and transformed it into your barricade." Hassan rotated his skull. "My local associates view me uniquely currently. The individual operating the financial institution requests additional identification. My market dropped patrons I served for 15 years. That defines the outcome of the deception, impacting us, the individuals who remained and labored, rather than yourself." He gazed directly at her. "You converse on behalf of Somali individuals during every financial gathering, before every broadcast lens. Yet you have consistently neglected to enter my portal and inquire regarding my requirements. Not a single instance across 19 years. You converse regarding us. Representative, you refrain from conversing directly with us." Hassan halted, and upon recommencing his speech, the stability within his tone fractured merely once, revealing something beneath that lacked wrath. It represented a graver emotion: sheer fatigue. "I migrated to this nation since I placed my faith in it. I held the belief that if an individual labored intensely, funded their levies, and enacted ethical deeds, this nation would handle them justly, and it executed exactly that for 19 years. It performed adequately until $1 billion was extracted utilizing our title. And the female assigned to advocate on our behalf appeared on broadcast media declaring, 'We operate as casualties. We lacked casualty status. Representative, we felt mortified. We felt disgrace. And we required you to position yourself alongside us to declare this action incorrect, rather than positioning yourself before broadcast lenses, claiming all other individuals were incorrect for observing the situation.' He rotated his skull an additional instance. When the difficulty surfaced, you guarded yourself while labeling it guarding us. I comprehend the disparity. I absorbed it within the identical sanctuaries you migrated from." He placed himself back into his seat, and the barricade vanished. Not fractured, purely vanished. Since the male who dismantled it lacked affiliation as a Republican operative or cable media presenter, he functioned as a Somali-American market operator originating from Omar's personal region, an individual who traveled the identical path she traveled, yet arrived at a distinct destination. Positioned in the tertiary row, Margaret Dwire, the surviving spouse originating from Staten Island, the female possessing the band upon her right palm, observed Abdi Hassan position himself in his seat. Two individuals originating from two entirely distinct versions of America. sharing a singular commonality. An entity had been vocalizing on their behalf without ever inquiring regarding the statements they genuinely desired to absorb. If you possess experience observing an individual don your populace resembling a garment, only to shed it the instant the broadcast lenses cease operation, authorize your subscription to this digital broadcast presently. Since Trump's subsequent actions align precisely with his genuine purpose for attending, Trump permitted the environment to stabilize. He refrained from interjecting immediately over Hassan's impactful moment. He permitted it to respire, permitted Omar to experience the absolute gravity of the recent occurrence. Subsequently, the commander-in-chief inclined his posture forward, his vocal tone altering to a firmer, denser quality. The Queen's persona emerged the historic district, the pavement, the aspect of his identity mocked by coastal elites yet relied upon by the nation's core. I possessed zero intention of executing this, Trump stated. I possessed intentions to maintain focus on regulations, maintain politeness, maintain purity, yet you labeled me a killer double on nationwide broadcast. Consequently, we shall currently examine the documented history, your documented history entirely, since a distinct sequence exists here. Representative, and this evening the entire nation shall witness it. He elevated a singular digit, the 11th of September, 2001. The environment constricted. You possess the capacity to sense it. You comprehend the significance of that specific date to the individuals occupying this room. You comprehend its significance to the female seated directly below. Trump directed his gaze downward toward the tertiary row, focusing on Margaret Dwire. And 60 million individuals observing from their residences witnessed a 68-year-old female donning a marital band upon the incorrect palm, possessing the most motionless visage within the environment. Her marital partner represented Thomas Dwyer, Engine 54, FDNY. He ascended into the northern structure during the dawn of September 11th, and he neglected to descend again, leaving behind a surviving spouse, a pair of male offspring, and a residence located on Staten Island that retained the scent of his equipment spanning a full 12 months post-entombment. Trump aimed his gaze at Omar. And yourself. You positioned yourself before a KR financial gathering, broadcast lenses operating, microphone active, and you recounted the date that eradicated her marital partner utilizing these specific terms. Some individuals enacted a deed. He permitted the phrase to linger. Some individuals enacted a deed. Trump rotated his skull. The perpetrators lacked the identity of some individuals. Representative. Exactly 19 individuals existed. We possess knowledge of every title. We possess knowledge of every visage. We possess knowledge of every aeronautical sequence. A total of 2,977 U.S. citizens perished during that dawn, and a male identified as Nicholas Harros, whose maternal figure constituted one of those 2,977, positioned himself at ground zero, donning your phrasing upon his torso. He desired the U.S. to witness the exact value an active representative placed upon his maternal figure's elimination. A deed that represents the value you assigned it, merely something. He permitted the environment to absorb the impact, and positioned in the tertiary row, Margaret Dwire, the female originating from Staten Island, the female who relocated her band from a single palm to the opposite during the most dreadful dawn of her existence, refrained from shifting. However, her mandible locked in the manner a mandible secures itself when an individual ultimately vocalizes loudly. The burden you have been lugging solo spanning 25 years. Because here lies the element Omar consistently failed to comprehend regarding those 6 terms. It extended beyond merely diminishing the assault. She diminished it while progressing toward a completely distinct argument. She utilized the 11th of September serving as a transitional object within a statement focused on her own identity. She referenced 3,000 deceased U.S. citizens in the identical manner an individual references atmospheric conditions prior to discussing their actual topic of interest, and the individuals who suffered casualties that date. Individuals resembling Margaret absorbed it exactly in that fashion. They absorbed an active representative handling the most dreadful date of their existences as a fleeting detail. If you maintained vital signs on the 11th of September, if your memory retains your physical location, the individuals you contacted, and the visual state of the heavens during that dawn, input a singular term within the response section presently, tower. Then return directly, since Trump lacks completion, not remotely. Second digit, January 2024, Minneapolis. You positioned yourself within a space heavily populated by Somali-Americans. And you conversed utilizing the Somali dialect since you assumed 0 individuals were executing translations. Trump inclined his posture forward. You declared, and the visual record exists. Any individual possesses the ability to retrieve it. The U.S. government shall execute the actions we mandate. Those represent your exact terms, utilizing your personal vocal tone, directed at your populace concerning our state governance. His vocal tone lowered. You pledged a sacred promise. Representative, elevating your right palm. You pledged to guard the foundational document of the United States, excluding Somalia, excluding Mogadishu, excluding Puntland, the United States. Subsequently, you entered a space and informed a gathering that this state governance reacts to them not holding the identity of Americans, but rather as Somalis who merely reside here. Trump rotated his skull. Even Ilhan. And I possess deep affection for Ilhan. An exceptional male. A massive male. Even Ilhan observed that visual record and declared it resembled treason. His chosen term? Excluding mine. Yet I shall inform you regarding the thoughts occupying the minds of a massive multitude of individuals. Third digit, the currency. Permit us to converse regarding the currency, since this specific topic remains my most preferred. Trump reclined his posture in the manner a male reclines when he possesses knowledge that the subsequent section executes the labor autonomously. Your electoral effort accumulated currency extracted from laboring individuals. $10 contributors, $20 contributors, educators, medical caretakers. Individuals who forfeited their midday meal to transfer $20 to you since they placed their faith in you? He halted. And you collected that currency, specifically $2.9 million, and you transferred it towards your marital partner's advisory corporation, Tim Minett, E Street Group. 50% of the total currency your electoral effort expended traveled directly toward your marital partner's enterprise. 50%. While his previous spouse occupied a legal tribunal claiming he departed her to join you? Trump directed his gaze at the broadcast lens. Within my commercial sector, and I possess extensive experience within the commercial sector, highly triumphant experience, trust my words, when an entity collects stakeholder currency and transfers it toward their spouse's enterprise. We refrain from labeling that action advising. We possess a distinct term to describe it. And absolutely everyone observing presently possesses exact knowledge regarding that specific term. A chuckle traversed the environment, lacking politeness, appearing harsh. The specific audio a space generates when an individual vocalizes the exact thought everyone else has been contemplating silently. And additionally, Trump stated, utilizing the chuckle's momentum precisely as he consistently utilized a chuckle, maintaining its forward motion, compounding upon it. She possessed the obligation to submit her fiscal transparency documents a second time since she initially documented her resources equaling $30 million. $30 million. Subsequently, she returned stating, in reality, the value falls beneath 100,000. 100,000 fails to represent a mere mathematical rounding deviation. Representative, that constitutes an entirely distinct postal code. You generated a miscalculation equaling $29.9 million. Yet you expect me to place faith in your calculations regarding the identity of a killer compared to a non-killer? An additional chuckle, possessing greater intensity. Consequently, allow us to tally the entirety. Trump declared, labeled the 11th of September as a deed, informed an external gathering that our state governance would submit to their demands. Transferred $3 million of contributor currency toward her marital partner's enterprise. Her personal faction criticized her regarding prejudice against Jewish people. And the Somali populace's personal market operator recently informed her she deserted them. He extended his palms outward, facing upward, deploying the traditional Trump maneuver, the motion signifying, are you capable of believing this reality? And this female, this exact female, positioned herself upon the floor of the United States Congress, representing the most vital space within the most exceptional nation across global history. And she thrust her digit while yelling, "Killer!" directed at the U.S. Commander-in-Chief. Trump rotated his skull gradually. I have occupied numerous spaces. Representative, I have executed agreements alongside the most resilient individuals upon the globe, and I shall provide you with a revelation. I possess zero historical experience witnessing an individual harboring a documented history resembling your own, possessing the audacity to direct a digit at another entity while yelling. That requires something massive, something entirely massive. However, audacity lacking cognitive wisdom merely generates audio static, And this evening, exactly presently, 60 million individuals ultimately perceived the massive volume of audio static it truly represented. If you possess experience observing an individual residing within a fragile, transparent structure hurl projectiles on nationwide broadcast, pondering the exact moment the structure would ultimately shatter. Remain stationed here. It is fracturing currently. Consequently, this signifies our current position. Omar labeled the commander-in-chief a killer. Trump presented the sequence. The 11th of September. Somalia. The currency. The prejudice. The entirety of it. Segment by segment. Utilizing her personal phrasing, positioned before the entire nation. A male originating from her personal populace elevated himself and informed her she converses regarding them, yet consistently neglects to converse directly with them. And the active representative retains a singular remaining strike. Omar interjected prior to the host possessing the ability to halt her. You desire to converse regarding cognitive wisdom, she stated, and her vocal tone contained a sharp edge. You have experienced congressional indictment twice. You possess criminal accusations. You dispatched a hostile gathering toward the central capital and observed it via broadcast media resembling an entertainment program. You lack the privilege to occupy that seat acting as a magistrate. You lack the privilege to catalog my phrasing when you have handled phrasing resembling armaments and handled human beings resembling theatrical objects spanning your total existence. It represented the most intense strike she hurled during the entire evening. One must award her that acknowledgement. It possessed structural fortitude, and she genuinely believed every single term. Trump remained motionless, permitted the strike to connect, permitted the applause originating from her supportive section to disperse and perish, and upon recommencing his speech, his vocal tone registered as the most tranquil it had reached throughout the entire evening. Lacking the gathering volume, lacking the media assembly volume, it represented something residing beneath the entirety of that. You possess accuracy indicating I have experienced every label, representative, congressional indictment, criminal accusations, the total sum. I possess experience hearing the entirety of it. I originate from Queens. We matured possessing resilient exterior tissue. Trust my words. He halted. However, I possess a singular additional item, and it represents the genuine rationale causing my arrival here this evening. The environment achieved absolute tranquility. The specific variety of tranquility permitting individuals to perceive the climate control system and the subtle vibration originating from the illumination fixtures positioned above. The 10th of September, 2025, a youthful male identified as Charlie Kirk entered an academic institution's territory located in Utah to deliver a presentation. He retained 31 years of age. He possessed a marital partner. He possessed small offspring at his residence who anticipated his return that evening. And an entity approached that speaking platform and eliminated him, fatally utilizing a firearm while he executed the singular action he consistently desired to execute. Converse with youthful individuals regarding the principles he placed his faith in. Trump ceased speaking, his mandible locking a single instance. A massive multitude of individuals held opposing views compared to Charlie Kirk, which remains acceptable, representing the nature of America. I hold opposing views compared to numerous individuals, yet you refrain from eliminating them utilizing firearms. And you absolutely avoid appearing on an audio broadcast 7 solar cycles following a male's fatal elimination to label him an appalling human entity. You refrain from labeling a fatally eliminated male a stochastic terrorist while his marital partner selects a burial container. And you absolutely refrain from stating, and I documented this exactly, Representative, since truthfully I struggled to believe it upon initial hearing, you absolutely refrain from stating zero legacy exists requiring honors. Trump's vocal tone achieved absolute flatness. Zero legacy requiring honors. A male fatally eliminated. A surviving spouse experiencing profound sorrow. Offspring lacking a paternal figure. And you approached a microphone informing the globe his existence lacked value regarding memory retention. He inclined his posture forward. You yelled, "Killer," directed at me upon the floor of Congress. You desired the visual footage. You desired the primary textual banner. You desired to embody the female who labeled the commander-in-chief a killer on active broadcast media while avoiding consequences. He rotated his skull, however, when a male experienced genuine fatal elimination, excluding rhetorical arguments, excluding regulatory debates, experiencing genuine death, genuine firearm impacts. You appeared on an entertainment program declaring he invited the outcome upon himself. You claimed the phrasing he vocalized summoned the outcome upon his physical form. The environment remained absolutely silent, lacking vital signs. I possess experience being labeled a prejudiced individual, an authoritarian, a supreme ruler, a killer. Insert any title. I possess the capacity to absorb it. However, I possess 0 historical instances, never a singular instance, where I directed my gaze at a surviving spouse during her week of profound sorrow and informed her the male she placed into the earth possessed 0 legacy requiring honors. I would consistently refuse to vocalize that sentiment regarding my most severe adversary's household. I would consistently refuse to vocalize it regarding yours. Trump reclined his posture. That represents the disparity separating us. Representative. And it consistently represented the disparity. You have utilized your complete professional span, labeling external individuals malicious. Yet when a male experienced firearm impacts resulting in fatal elimination, when a genuine surviving spouse and genuine offspring existed, the malice emerged originating from yourself, excluding myself. You, alongside 60 million individuals, recently observed your inability to issue a denial. Omar unsealed her lips. 0 audio emerged. The microphone remained active. The verdant illumination at the foundation remained stable, representing the identical illumination that transported her vocal tone toward the entire nation a fortnight prior when she yelled "killer" across the floor of Congress. It remained positioned exactly there, prepared, anticipating. Yet the subsequent phrase neglected to arrive, and Ilhan Omar, the female who possessed 0 historical instances lacking phrasing, who had established a professional span utilizing the absolute confidence that a singular additional statement consistently remained available for vocalization, remained seated within that seat, possessing her palms flattened upon her knee joints, and vocalized absolutely 0 terms. The host waited 3 moments. 5. Subsequently inquiring cautiously if the representative held a desire to provide a response. She lacked the desire to provide a response. The female who had established a professional span utilizing the consistent availability of a singular additional phrase, the female who had vocally overpowered a commander-in-chief upon the floor of Congress, who had utilized speech to extract herself from every restrictive corner she had experienced confinement within, remained seated 3 feet distant from the male she labeled a killer, and lacked the capacity to uncover a solitary term to vocalize back toward him, since absolute 0 remained available to state. Trump had refrained from labeling her unintelligent. He had refrained from labeling her a deceiver. He had refrained from even elevating his vocal tone. He had merely deposited her personal phrasing upon the surface, her personal phrasing utilizing her personal vocal tone, extracted from her personal microphone, and permitted those elements to rest adjacent to the term killer she had yelled at him a fortnight prior. And absolute 0 combinations of phrases within the English vernacular possess the capability to force those dual elements to integrate seamlessly. If you possess experience being labeled malicious by an entity who presented to you the exact visual representation of malice during a moment holding genuine significance, transmit this visual footage toward a singular individual, merely one, an entity who would experience the impact within their central cavity, subsequently return directly. That quietness, the microphone remaining active, the verdant illumination stable. 0 audio traversing through that represents the audio of an entity fracturing on active broadcast media, lacking the capacity to experience structural restoration. Positioned in the tertiary row, Margaret Dwire elevated herself gradually. She refrained from applauding. She refrained from cheering. She directed her gaze toward the platform, bypassing Trump, bypassing the host, targeting Omar. She maintained the visual connection spanning 5 moments, an adequate duration permitting every broadcast lens to discover her, an adequate duration permitting the female positioned upon the platform to experience the gravitational pull of a surviving spouse's visual organs originating from 30 feet of distance and 25 years of profound depth. Subsequently, Margaret positioned herself back into her seat, crossed her palms overlaying the band upon her right palm, and vocalized 0. It proved adequate. She operated her transport returning to her residence on Staten Island that evening, traversing the Verrazano, descending through Brooklyn, bypassing the architectural outline where dual structures formerly held positions. They elevate illumination fixtures there currently, dual vertical beams of pale illumination annually every September to prompt the municipality's memory regarding the geometric outline of the missing elements. Margaret refrained from halting. She merely operated her transport past the location. Audio receiver deactivated. Transparent barrier partially fractured. Band upon the incorrect palm. She possessed experience observing a massive multitude of individuals converse regarding the 11th of September across the spanning years. Primarily governmental figures. They consistently vocalize the appropriate phrasing, demanding permanent memory retention, demanding permanent honoring of the courageous individuals associated with that date, and subsequently they reverted to their previous activities, their phrasing vaporizing resembling exhalations upon a chilled, transparent barrier. However, this evening had proven distinct. This evening, an entity had extracted those 6 negligent terms. Some individuals enacted a deed and elevated them directly before the female who vocalized them upon a platform positioned under illumination fixtures, while the entire nation observed, and the female possessed 0 available statements. For the initial instance spanning 25 years, Margaret experienced the sensation resembling an entity ultimately vocalizing the precise concept she had been lugging since the dawn. Thomas ascended those vertical steps and neglected to descend again. Some individuals enacted a deed, and a singular member of those some individuals represented Thomas Dwire of Engine 54, who ascended while every other individual descended. If this presentation forced you to elevate your posture a singular instance, strike the approval icon, permitting the computational system to present the content toward individuals requiring its absorption. If you hold the belief that the individuals who maintained vital signs throughout the 11th of September merit a superior outcome compared to some individuals enacted a deed, authorize your subscription presently. Deposit a singular term within this response section. You possess knowledge of the term, tower. Transmit this content toward an entity retaining memory regarding their physical location during that dawn. An entity who consistently retains a fire station digit via internal cognitive mapping. An entity who has been lugging the burden, silently spanning 25 years while consistently failing to hear a singular individual vocalize it loudly upon a platform holding genuine significance. Your profound sorrow consistently represented something exceeding mere casual references. Your marital partner, your female spouse, your paternal figure, your maternal figure, your associate who departed for labor that Tuesday dawn and neglected to return to their residence, they consistently transcended a mere casual reference. They represented absolute totality. And 277 U.S. citizens commanded greater respect than 6 negligent terms originating from a female who utilized their fatal eliminations serving as a transitional object within a statement focused on her own identity. This evening, an entity ultimately declared this reality directly to her visage upon a platform holding genuine significance. And for a singular instance, for the initial instance, the female who consistently retained phrasing available for vocalization possessed nothing left.